is one such important event. Today, I'm going to name the next chief of the Metropolitan Police Department. And you can see that we're joined by our council member for Ward 2, our host council member and chair of the council's Committee on Public Safety and the Judiciary, Brooke Pinto. Please give her a big round of applause. As well as Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, Lindsay Appiah. And I want to thank Lindsay for leading an incredible recruitment and search process for MPD. So thank you, Lindsay, for your leadership and hard work. The Interim Chief of Police, Ashawn Benedict. Thank you, Chief Benedict. As well as the Assistant Chiefs of MPD and command staff who are all present. Give them a big round of applause. So today I am proud to name Assistant Chief Pamela Smith of the Metropolitan Police Department as Chief of Police of the Metropolitan Police Department. Give Pam a big round of applause. Chief Smith has a distinguished 25-year career in law enforcement. She knows Washington, D.C., she knows MPD, she knows policing, and she understands very well the network of law enforcement and public safety teams that work to keep Washington, D.C. safe. And as we know, she is resilient and ready for this role. And this won't be her first time stepping into a historic role, but for us, Chief Smith becomes the first African-American woman to be the permanent chief of Metropolitan Police Department. Chief Smith is a well-respected leader who is able to build relationships both inside the agency and with all of the law enforcement communities that we work with. We conducted a survey from the community about what DC residents were looking for in their next chief of police, and among the top responses were a leader who can communicate and advocate for a policy environment that promotes public safety, someone who is innovative and focused on driving down crime, someone with a proven ability to connect with the community, and someone who can recruit more officers and train the next generation of MPD's leaders. And I believe that's Chief Smith. She knows what the landscape is in D.C. right now. She is familiar with what's working at MPD and where we will all work together to do more and better, and she is ready to start on day one. We're getting the full package with Chief Smith: experience, passion, and a strong commitment to making D.C. safer. She also works with young people in her personal life as a minister, and her path to public service, which she'll share with you, is one that I know resonates with D.C.'s community in all 8 wards. Councilmember Pinto was briefed over the weekend and had an opportunity to meet with Chief Smith, and I know I look forward to working with our public safety team and the council to keep driving down crime and keep our community safe. So with that, I introduce my nominee for MPD's chief, Chief Pam Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser, for that kind introduction. I am Pamela Smith, and it is my distinct honor and privilege to be introduced as the next Chief of Police for the Metropolitan Police Department. I want to extend my sincere appreciation and support for Mayor Muriel Bowser, for her confidence and my nomination in this role as Chief of Police. I also want to thank Interim Chief of Police Ashawn Benedict for his role over the past months, his leadership, and his dedication to this community. Who am I? Well, I'm glad you asked. I am a native of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and educated in the Pine Bluff school system. I graduated from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. While this is personal for me today, my childhood was marked with turmoil and challenges. I grew up in an environment where my father was addicted to drugs, and my mother at 21 years old had to figure out how to raise 3 children on her own. The resources in Pine Bluff at that time did not avail itself as a system that truly assisted single mothers. My mother quickly turned to substance abuse, and it wasn't long before the Arkansas Department of Human Services removed us from her care and placed us in foster care. Despite the fact that my mother was dealing with her own challenges, I would have preferred being home rather than in a foster care system that was not focused on the reunification of our family. While those challenges yet did not define me, I am grateful as years have passed, I was able to reestablish my relationship with my birth mother and was blessed with a wonderful adopted family. These experiences have shaped me and molded me into the woman that you see standing before you today. When I joined the United States Park Police at the age of 30, I'm dating myself, and after having served as a correctional officer with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, I knew I had a passion for service. So why MPD? I'm glad you asked again. Washington, D.C. is an amazing city filled with amazing residents, visitors, businesses, and opportunities. And I am proud to live as a resident in Ward 8. As a law enforcement officer and a member of this community, I am also troubled by the crime that is plaguing our communities, which is why it is important for me to be engaged in wanting to make the District of Columbia safer. I'm passionate about ensuring the public safety for the residents and visitors of D.C., and I am passionate about the people of the Metropolitan Police Department. I also want to work for a mayor who has demonstrated time and time again that public safety is her first priority. And she has consistently supported the department both through policy and resources. Through service and law enforcement, I found my passion. And I found how I could make a difference and make an impact. I had the opportunity at U.S. Park Police to work in 4 different jurisdictions, including 3 major metropolitan areas, including Washington, D.C., New York, and San Francisco. I worked with local crime strategists in each of those jurisdictions, and I rose to the ranks until I retired in 2022 as the first African-American woman to serve as police chief in the U.S. Park Police's 230-year history. And I joined the MPD in 2022 as the first Chief Equity Officer, and more recently serving as the Assistant Chief of our Homeland Security Bureau. These roles have given me a unique insight into MPD. I have had a front row seat at watching the men and women of MPD fight crime every day. You see, I know the players. Just watch the game. I have seen the tremendous work they do on our crime briefings, working with partners throughout the region. And as chief, I will be working with leaders of MPD and our partners in a collaborative effort to enhance our current strategies. What I know for sure is that MPD is an organization filled with passionate people who genuinely care about making the community safe. I have been able to compare MPD to a lot of agencies in a lot of places, and make no mistake about it. On today, I am proud, I am humbled, and I am excited to work alongside this team. Joining the MPD as your chief of police is a monumental occasion, and this historic moment is not lost on me. I join a legacy of strong African-American women who lead public safety in the District of Columbia, joining the mayor and the deputy mayor of public safety and justice. And today I have a message for young women who are watching this today. No matter where you come from, no matter your challenges that you face, or the adversity that is in your way. If you choose to serve in law enforcement or any other career, you become an integral part of any community. I stand here today as someone who, as a child, I had no hopes, I had no dreams. They were far beyond my reach, but I believe that all things are possible. And I stand in this place because of what I believe in. And I'm confident that with my experiences both outside and inside of MPD, I bring a fresh perspective, a different kind of energy, a different level of passion to what I'm going to do. What I know is that MPD is a department of opportunity. No matter who you are, who our members are, or where they come from, there is the ability for them to make an impact with our community and have a sense of belonging within the agency. But let me be clear. As a community, we must tackle the violent crime issues that we are experiencing in the district. The community wants the police to be the police and do so in a constitutional, safe, and respectful manner. Make no mistake about it. I will be laser focused to ensure that we do everything we can in this space. That includes targeting the deployment of our officers to areas impacted by crime, engaging in long-term investigations focused on most violent individuals, leveraging a whole government approach, and I will take the lead in that space, and ensuring the effective use of our police officers. But what I also know is that there are many good practices already underway at the MPD. And my goal is to amplify those successes while identifying other new methods as well. I will work with the existing leaders at MPD to help develop a cohesive strategy that meets the needs of DC. And I will be visible in the community, listening to what the community wants, listening to what is needed, and our strategy will include the voices of Washington, D.C. We have a lot of work to do. And I'm so very thankful to Mayor Bowser and the broader D.C. community. Over the next few weeks, I look forward to getting to know even more members of our department, working with partners across the region and members of our community to work collaboratively on positive outcomes. Thank you, Mayor Bowser, for this amazing opportunity to serve the District of Columbia as Chief of Police. And my name is Pamela A. Smith, and I am your next Chief of Police for the District of Columbia.
All right. We got a chief. So with that, I want to thank Chief Smith, and I want to turn to Councilmember Pinto for a few words.
Well, thank you so much, and I officially understand the meaning of I can't follow that. But that was very inspiring. I'm Brooke Pinto. I have the privilege of being the Ward 2 council member as well as the chair of the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety. And we have known for several weeks now that a new chief of police is needed for the department to lead the department. And I think it's been abundantly clear that we have to stay focused in partnership with the police on driving down crime and violence, on a commitment to relationship building and improving community trust, on recruitment and retention to make sure that our department is robust and that we have a long-term plan to do so, and to ensure a collaborative working relationship both with MPD and the council, as well as all of our law enforcement partners in the city. And I'm so grateful to Mayor Bowser and Acting Chief Smith for the opportunity to speak with Acting Chief Smith over the weekend and hear a little bit more about her vision. And I was extremely impressed and optimistic for the type of leadership that she can provide, inspired by creative approaches she's committed to with community policing, with investments in technology, with a commitment to relationships that she already has in Washington, D.C. with our residents, and will continue to build on. With the diversity of experiences that she has, both within MPD and outside MPD, with the diversity of jurisdictions, which I think is a really unique blend of experience that will help enable her leadership. And an expressed commitment, which I really appreciate, to a collaborative partnership and relationship with myself and with the council. And so I am looking forward to the next steps to shepherd this process forward through the council with a robust community engagement process, and we'll be working with Mayor Bowser and Deputy Mayor A to ensure that that confirmation hearing can be scheduled as soon as possible so we can hear from everyone in the public. But again, want to extend my congratulations to Acting Chief Smith, and looking forward to continue staying focused as a government on driving down crime and violence, which is our #1 focus right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, questions? Questions? I'll take press questions. Yes, ma'am.
Obviously, there's a crime issue in the district. You've been with the department for a while. What changes do you see need to be implemented, or do you want to follow the same course here?
Well, thank you for that question. I think when we think about what's happening across the District of Columbia as it relates to crime, we have I truly believe in the crime fighting strategies that we hear in the District of Columbia with our Metropolitan Police Department. One of the things that we will continue to do is enhance upon our traffic safety compliance checkpoints. We will redeploy our officers in areas where we have a high crime area. We will refocus our recruitment efforts, and we will also look at ensuring that we are highly visible in our communities.
Follow-up question for the chief. Congratulations. As a member and a resident of Ward 8, how do you think that would influence your connection to the community? We've spoken to a lot of folks who still say we don't see our officers enough. We want to be engaged with our officers, not just see them patrolling, but know who they are in real, meaningful relationships. How is your experience in Ward 8 going to influence that?
Redeveloping a new initiative for ensuring that we continue with our hotspot policing. But I'm a leader from the front, and I'm a boots on the ground kind of leader. And what that means is that I will lead by example. The expectation is that our officers are, I think some of them, the majority of them, are doing a great job. Can we do better? Absolutely. And I will take the charge in ensuring that I am out there conducting public safety walks in our districts with our community, but also being present for our officers and establishing what my expectations will be as Chief of Police.
Yes, ma'am.
Jumping on that, Ward 8 has seen some of the most concentrated violence in DC for a number of years. Now, can you talk about your personal experiences with violence in DC, if you have any to speak about?
Well, I don't have any personal experiences with regards to violence in the District of Columbia, but what I will say is this. I live in Ward 8, and I believe that every resident of the District of Columbia have a right to feel safe in D.C. When I lay my head down at night, I want to feel safe in D.C., and that's the reason why it's important to me to ensure that we do everything we can to drive down crime. It's not enough for folks to not feel safe, but I will tell you we're going to throw everything, all of our resources at ensuring that we do everything we can to drive down crime in the district.
Do you feel safe right now where you live?
I do feel safe where I live.
Yes, Mark.
Introduce yourself. Oh, hi. Name is Martin Ostermiel with WAMU. Congratulations. Good to meet you, at least at a distance.
Thank you, sir.
One thing you mentioned is talking about redeploying officers. I mean, there's been, you can look at the numbers, you can see where the officers, what districts they serve and what PSAs they serve. And, you know, you saying that you want to redeploy officers to areas with more crime, is that a recognition that currently that too many officers are spread too evenly across the city, serving areas that may not have a whole lot of crime or more quality of life issues versus areas that have a lot more violent crime, but just not enough officers to handle that inflow of incidents?
Well, without getting into our operational structure or flow, whenever there is an incident, we take that very seriously, but we also have opportunities to redeploy other resources to those areas to support what's happening in that particular area at that particular time. And we will continue to build on that. I will continue to work with this team standing behind me, and we will come up with different strategies and new strategies and approaches in order to combat crime in the District of Columbia. Yes, ma'am.
And it has also been very important for us throughout this process. We have to redeploy officers because we have fewer officers. And so it's been very, very important that the chief and all of our leadership take the approach that we have to do more with fewer people. Any other questions? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Darren Masha. I live in Ward 2. Hi, George. I have a question for the chief and Brooke.
Okay, could I ask you to hold 1 second until we finish our press questions, and then we'll go to community questions? Okay, and I'll get to you, but let me, I promised the press to finish with them, and then we'll go. Are we going on the second round? Okay, Stephanie, Mark, and then I'll go second round. Mark?
Mayor, for you and for Councilmember Pinto, I'm wondering if you could talk, well, first for you, Mayor Bowser, I doubt that you'll give us any names of other people who you interviewed.
You're correct.
Could you give us just some idea of how big a pool of people you talked to, how many people you looked at, how far away, how many internal, how many external?
I'm going to turn to Deputy Mayor Pia in a second to fully answer your question, Mark. But let me just say this. I had a tremendous number of very qualified, competent police officials who are interested in this job, inside the department and outside the department. I told you what the community said was important, which also reflected my priorities. How will we have a leader with experience who's focused on crime fighting and can start on day one? And I have to tell you, a lot of our officials fit that bill. But I've done my best with all that I know about the district, where we are and what we need to select the right leader for this moment, and that's Pam Smith. I'm going to ask Lindsay to talk a little bit more about the process.
So as the mayor said at the start of the search, we really did conduct a nationwide search. And one of the things that was very obvious is that in a time where people say there's challenges around policing, we know there is, that one thing that there wasn't a challenges in was finding people who really, really wanted to be the chief of the Metropolitan Police Department. I met with, I'll say this, that we had dozens, literally dozens of people from across the country, small cities, large cities, internal candidates, external candidates. And so it was very important to us that we meet with a lot of people across sections so that we could present to the mayor a robust set of candidates to make the right choice for the district. And so we did that. We met with internal, external, large city, small city, people from across the country.
Any other press questions? Yes, Sam?
Yes, question for the chief. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Sam Ford with Channel 7 here in Washington. Question for the chief. So you came from U.S. Park Police Chief over to a job at MPD. Did you come with the idea that this day might occur, might happen?
Well, no, sir. To be honest, when I retired knowing that I was coming to the Metropolitan Police Department to serve as their chief equity officer. My background as a member of the U.S. Park Police, I was very concerned about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that was one of my highest priorities. And when I found out that the Metropolitan Police Department had a chief equity officer position available, I thought it would be an opportunity, number one, for me to throw my name in the hat, but number two, continue to stay in the space of law enforcement. And as crime has changed and trajectory of the department has changed, I think in a positive way internally, it gave me an opportunity to come back into this space as the Assistant Chief of Police of our Homeland Security Bureau. The Homeland Security Bureau covers a multitude of things here in the District of Columbia, especially our Special Operations Division, where we manage a lot of crowds, large crowds and activities across the District of Columbia, as well as special events.
Based on what I've heard today, I see you being invited to pulpits around Washington. I'm just curious, have you experienced in pulpits?
Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, I began my ministry in Staten Island, New York, where I was licensed in 2002. And then in 2004, I was ordained as a licensed minister, and then ordained as a youth pastor, and then went out to San Francisco, Third Baptist Church of San Francisco, under the tutelage of Cleophas Amos Brown, and I served as his youth pastor. And then I made my way down to Glencoe, Georgia, Zion Baptist Church, where I served as a youth pastor for Reverend Craig Campbell. And then I made my way back up here to Gum Springs, Virginia, where I served as a youth pastor for Dr. Darrell K. White. And now I am a member of Fort Foote Baptist Church in Fort Washington, Maryland. It is my intent to change my membership.
Hi, Leonard Fleming, DC News Now. Chief, congratulations for the new position.
Thank you,
Chief,
sir.
can you assess the morale in the department and talk about sort of how you plan to improve morale if it's low?
So I can't put a gauge on whether morale is low or not. What I can say is that I believe we have the best officers working at the Metropolitan Police Department. I think in order for how I lead, again, is I lead from the front, being present for the officers, attending roll calls, going out to the districts, conducting ride-alongs with my officers, and also just being present for them and listening to them and hearing from the voices of the employees. One of the things that I did, which I think helped me to become more familiar with the Metropolitan Police Department, was that as I became the Chief Equity Officer, I launched what's called Voices Tour, a listening session where I hit every single roll call, every district, internal, external, to ensure that I had a good compass of what was happening within the Metropolitan Police Department, which led me to the space that I am in currently today, but more importantly, moving into the space of the Homeland Security Bureau. I think that I come with a leadership style that I think I have been able to mentor, coach, and guide others along the way. And I'm going to use those same skills and characteristics to ensure that we are leading a very prosperous agency within the MPD.
How would you describe your leadership style?
Transformational. Chief Conte coined a phrase that excellence is transferable. And I believe that. I believe that excellence is transferable. I believe that what you put out and how you invest in others is the return for which you're going to get. And I know that folks have deposited into me, and I stand here today because I'm going to give them a return on their investment.
Okay, we're going to do one more round. I'll start on this side this time.
Mayor Bowser, this is for you. With the emergency legislation and this new nomination, you've got a lot of movement in the public safety space. What would success look like for you in about 3 months?
Well, it shouldn't be a surprise to you that we're very focused on making sure that everybody across all 8 wards feels safe in their communities. And that's what we drive on each and every day. For MPD, that means deploying and driving down crime. For ones, that means preventing crime. For DBH, that means getting to more people who need services. For the rest of the government and schools, that means something else. So I think it means that we are executing on strategies that we know are effective that will lead to reductions in crime.
Sorry, just one quick follow-up. Is there anything specific, like data or benchmarks, that you look at that you hope to see at a certain place in a few months?
We look at benchmarks not in 3 months. We look at them daily, and we're looking at use of guns. We're looking at Part 1 crimes. We're looking at what's going through the courts. So we're looking at crime data daily. And Martin.
Chief, given your history as a youth pastor, I'm just curious if you've given thought, I'm sure you have, but what you would tell residents, what you tell folks in the community, what you tell youth about the current situation with juveniles being involved in crime. I mean, there's been more shootings involving juveniles, a lot more homicides involving juveniles. You know, do you have any thoughts about why that's happening and what can be done about it, given your experience?
Well, I think that we have to have an all-government approach in order to deal with our young people, our juveniles. We need to ensure, I think there are a lot of programs that are out there in our parks and recreation programs, but I also think that there has to be some accountability for the parents. And I think that's the part that we're missing, being able to really reach out, engage the parents just a little bit more to ensure that we can really build a good legion of leaders with our juveniles here in the District of Columbia.
Okay, Stephanie. I have a couple more questions for the chief, but also for you, Mayor. Chief, with regard to what you just said, a lot of programs out there, there seems to be an issue with attracting those kids to those programs. You can't make them do it. And some of the programs available, they don't necessarily want to partake in. How do you plan on engaging youth that way?
Community engagement. I mean, we have community engagement officers within the Metropolitan Police Department. And as we continue to increase our numbers as far as staff, we will continue to enhance and build upon our community engagement efforts in the District of Columbia.
And you did mention a few things you want to do, but what's the first thing you want to do as chief of police?
Drive down crime.
And then for the mayor, please. The question with the prioritizing emergency bill that just passed, a lot of people are celebrating the efforts there, but it's my understanding it has not been transmitted to your office for signature yet. For the public, how long will that take? And then in terms of police making some of the changes, how long do you anticipate that will take as well? And another question after that, please.
Usually the council, they can take, sometimes they take a day, sometimes they take 2 weeks to send over a bill. I don't know exactly what happens on that side. It's not the council member Pinto's. It happens in the chairman's office. So they have some work to do, and the process is called enrolling the bill. And when the bill comes over, then I sign it.
So do you foresee, any tensions that you've had with the chair having to do with this delay, or this is just?
I wouldn't call it a delay. This is kind of in the normal amount of time that it usually takes to send a bill over.
Interview with the chief. Any reason why the interview was placed with NBC4 and why the message is only going to be transferred through one station?
Well, we're all here now. Any other questions? Yep.
I have one question because we are coming off a very unfortunate violent weekend where there was a cyclist who was killed in Northwest in an attempted robbery. We know Thursday there was another worker killed in an attempted robbery on Howard University campus. Mayor and the chief as well, speak directly to the public. We know there are a lot of movements being made, but what tangible things can they see in their neighborhoods, and how can folks keep themselves and their neighbors safe?
I think what we've seen, and I'm pretty sure the Thursday very unfortunate homicide has been demonstrated as a robbery. I'll have MPD brief out on the 3rd Street homicide in a little bit. I'm not exactly sure what the motive is there, but in each case, we've had guns, people willing to use guns, and a desperate, unnecessary loss of life. And what we need to do is make sure the people who have committed those violent acts are off the streets. And we need to continue to focus on keeping guns out of the hands of people who will use them.
And how can residents keep themselves safe? I mean, folks are fearful. I talk to a lot of neighbors who listen to the blogs and read the blogs and hear about all the robberies and the carjackings happening in their communities, which used to be sleepy at one point. How can residents keep themselves safe?
I think that residents continue to make clear to all of us that we need a policy environment that helps keep them safe, that we need the officers that can be deployed, that all of the other parts of government can be deployed, but also as they recognize problems in their communities or maybe even problems in their own homes where guns are involved, that they need to engage us. All right, are those all the press questions? All right, I'll take these 3 here. Yes, sir. You were first. Mr. Pasha, was it? Yeah. Okay.
I'm Darren. I have a question for the chief about deploying new CCTV camera.
Hold on. He'll hold the mic. It's okay.
So I don't feel safe. I'm a Ward 2 resident. I don't feel safe. Last year, I got my scooter stolen, $3,000. Then this year, my friends got their stuff stolen right in front of me. I don't feel safe because when I called the cops, they looked at CCTV camera. They found out 2 was not working. So my suggestion is, as a new chief to come on, can you please deploy more CCTV camera so officers, when they go, they could stop the crime, because it's unfortunate. Like, just read the blogs of next door neighbor. People are getting their stuff stolen, and I want more CCTV camera to be in the city, and I want actual ones that are working. So when I call the police department, they can.
All right,
So what's
I'll
your
take that,
suggestion?
Chief. And so we agree with you. We need increased deployment. I think you know that we have put thousands of cameras out in our private camera security program, which has been very helpful to MPD. We look to deploy and replace some of our existing CCT cameras and install more. Yep.
Chris Williams with Southwest Voice. Crime is a function of many social and economic factors. DC has acute and growing racial disparities in health and wealth worsened by district policies. Can we expect a more holistic approach in deterrence and prevention, namely with racial equity priorities?
Yes, and people who are following what we've done over the last 9 years know that our approach to crime has a law enforcement component for sure, and we need to have the officers that we need, and they need the tools that they need, and we're going to continue to grow those resources. But we're also heavily invested in what I call prevention and opportunity programs, probably second to none in the country. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt Delaney, Washington Times. 2 quick questions for the chief. I was just wondering, she mentioned accountability for parents. I was wondering what that looks like.
Well, I'll turn to the chief in talking about that, but I asked, as you probably know, when I introduced our Safer, Stronger legislation, I also asked each of our deputy mayors to focus and look at the programs that they are responsible for to make sure they're working, and if they are, how can we, expand them and level them up? They're not working, how do we move away from them? And how do we identify gaps? And some of the gaps that we've identified, quite frankly, are in schools, in some of the disciplinary policies that have changed over the last several years that take tools away from teachers and administrators and from parents. So we continue to look for ways to close those gaps. Additionally, we are interested in that parent who comes to us and says, I've tried everything I can, and I don't know what else to do, but I know my kid's in trouble. They're going to get killed or they're going to find themselves in jail, and what do we do with them? And right now we're looking for ways to provide that family and that child some structured, mandatory services. Whether that be in school or elsewhere, because we have a lot of kids, unfortunately, that we may know are in trouble, and we just send them back to a community and a family, and that cycle persists. So part of our discussions across the government is how do we give that family and that kid mandatory, structured help, and we're working on it.
Are criminal penalties under consideration for parents of juvenile offenders?
As I said, I identified what we're considering at this point. All right, thank you, everybody. Let's get to work. Oh, okay.
Put it all up.
And bear true faith and allegiance to the same. faithfully enforce
I will faithfully enforce
the laws of the United States of America
the laws of the United States of America
and of Washington, D.C.
and of Washington, D.C.
I take this obligation
I take this obligation
freely, without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
I will consider each matter before me
I will consider each matter before me
from the viewpoint
from the viewpoint
of the best interest
of the best interests
of the District of Columbia
of the District of Columbia
as a whole.
as a whole.
And I will
Well
and faithfully
and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office
of the office
I'm about to enter.
I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, let's do it right here. Okay.
We now return to our previously scheduled program, already in progress.